Welcome to the GSD with Jeni podcast, where we talk about how to overcome all the stuff that gets in the way of getting shit done. Imposter syndrome, fear, money, relationships, networking, building businesses. We're going to talk to experts, or as I say, mavens, that provide practical and tactical advice on how to GSD. I'm your host, Jeni Buchholz, founder and CEO of Haven Creative. I started my business with $300 in a laptop and grew it to a team of Haven mavens serving clients around the world and generating over 7 figures in revenue. I'm incredibly proud of the success we've had, but I still need help too. So I started this podcast with the intent to dive deeper into the things that hold us back from achieving our goals. So thank you for joining me on this journey to GSD. Let's get started. Welcome back to the Get Shit Done podcast on the special SEMA edition. Today's episode is all about building an intentional brand, one that builds trust, loyalty, and impact. And I'm joined today by two incredible women who are redefining brands in the automotive space. I have Lee Reiser, Vice President of Marketing at Real Truck, who brings more than 20 years of experience driving strategy across both B2B and D2C channels, and Amanda Van Den Elzen, founder of Racer on Demand, helping grassroots racers grow their personal brands, connect with fans, and build sponsorship value. Welcome, ladies.
Thanks so much. Yeah.
All right. So we're going to talk about branding. Lee, I'll start with you. What does building an intentional brand look like for you at Real Truck?
Well, we've been on this journey for a while, and we've actually recently done a rebrand under the Real Truck name. And so what it looks like is just reinventing, what is possible with not only our products, but the builds that we bring to life here at SEMA. And it really is about bringing your truck to life. So we have a lot of products, and we want to showcase just what you can do with them and inspire people to get outdoors. And so that's what for us, building this brand has been about the lifestyle and how to live it.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, Amanda, how about you? You're working with racers and it's a crowded market. It's very busy. How do people stand out in that space to build a brand?
Yeah, it is. And I think the number one thing that I really try to drill in for racers is it's not enough to just be really good at what you do. You have to find what makes you different than the people around you. So you race in a class with a bunch of different people that do the exact same thing as you. What makes you different than the person next to you? And finding that is really in your values. What do you stand for? Are you a family-based team? Do you have some great hobbies that other people can relate to? What are the things that you offer to partners that other people can't offer, right? Like, what does that following look like for you? And who's your target audience to match that?
Okay, I'm going to add on to that then, because with Real Truck, same thing. Like, how do you showcase your values to build that audience and awareness? And what does that look like?
Yeah. And honestly, at Real Truck, we do look for partners that obviously match what we stand for. We want authentic. We want people that really, truly do live that. And so that's what we look for in partners. And so, you really hit it there spot on. We want to know why you're different, why you would reflect our brand in a great way out there on the racetrack and, wherever you are going. So
I love that you said authentic too, because I think a lot of people have this idea that building a brand means creating a persona that doesn't already exist. And it's not. You have to amplify the things that already make you you to be the most authentic, easiest brand to build, right? Because you're already doing the things, you just do them louder and more intentionally.
no, that's absolutely spot on.
Do you feel like we were talking about this yesterday? Content that's overly produced actually performs worse than the stuff that's just out there, gritty, not overly produced. Do you have what's your experience in that?
Yeah, no, I definitely think social first content is the way to go right now, and user generated stuff. I mean, we really see our audiences, connecting with that. And again, I think it's because it's authentic.
Yeah.
The overly produced stuff, yes, it's great for some of the branding. You need to showcase your product sometimes in certain ways, but what really resonates with our audience has been that just user generated content, seeing the product out in the wild and really having fun with it.
I love that because it's the same thing on the racer side of the world too, right? People want to see what it's really like behind the scenes. They're not going to follow somebody when they know what they're presenting is fake. And it's the same thing when we're trying to partner with a brand, right? A brand is going to know that you're not authentically aligned with their values, and your followers are going to know that you don't actually like the brands that you're promoting.
Yeah, I hate that. Yes. Have you been approached by a lot of brands that are influencers, right? That want free product and they come up and like, how do you gauge that and who
Yeah.
you want to work with?
I mean, honestly, even at the show, right? This is a perfect place. You see a
Oh,
lot
yeah.
of people, you get approached, but it is all about matching. There has to be that fit. And so it's like if your channel doesn't already speak to the type of product that we have, it's probably not going to be a fit. But we really do look for people that are going to obviously amplify our values and the products. We want them to live it. We want them to use it. But it's like, why did you come to us? Did you come to us because you were looking for a brand or you really like our products? Because
Yeah.
that's what I want.
Yeah, definitely.
And on the bottom line, like, how are they going to sell your product to other people, right? And I think that's a part that a lot of people miss when, especially they're cold calling people at a show like this. They walk up and say, like, hey, what can I get for free? Instead of,
come on.
hey,
Yeah.
how can we partner to sell your products?
Yeah. So let's talk about that. You help racers, I'll say, get shit done in order to tell their stories. What are some things that they should look for or do to build their brands?
Yeah, first off, cold calling at a trade show is not on my
Don't do
list
that.
of things.
Number one, don't do that. Yeah, got
Yes.
it. Okay.
No, I think honestly, a lot of times the first step that racers will go for is I'm just going to start like the spray and pray method of I'm going to just, give everybody my deck and I'm going to see what sticks. And most of the time it's nothing because they haven't done the work on the front end to intentionally say, this is who I am and this is what I have to offer. So just like a business does,
Yep.
they need to say, what's my value proposal, right? What do I have to offer? What's the product that I'm selling? And who is my buyer? And the buyers are those companies that they want to partner with. And so like I could walk up to Lee and say like, hey, sponsor our race team. But unless she knows what she's buying from me, she's not going to do that.
Of course. Yeah. And Lee, what do you look for? Like you said, that align with your values, but how does a successful partnership work with Real Truck?
Honestly, it grows.
Okay.
So we look for partners that are, we may start small, but they just grow. And that's how you know the fit is there.
Yeah.
Because you just start doing more.
Build
and
trust.
It's just so organic when it's like you're building trust with your audience, you're building trust with them. And what we look for is definitely things that do make you stand out. Like, why are you different? Because there are a lot of people trying to obviously get sponsorship
Yes.
or get into this, area. Everybody wants to be an influencer, but it's like, I don't want an influencer. I want someone that is truly excited about the products and the
Yes.
brand.
And you talk about that. We talked on the last show about how enthusiastic you are about the product and being on the off-road space. And I think you have a unique challenge because Real Truck speaks to two types of audiences. You have the off-road enthusiast, but you also have to speak to the person that has never even been off-road. So is there like a tactic to how you change your approach when you market to those different audiences? Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, we really have to look at, we honestly have personas. And it is, it's about, okay, so the average consumer doesn't know a lot about these categories. How do we make it easy for them? How do we educate them? And that's where the videos showcasing why the product is better and what it's really going to do for them. What's the problem it's going to solve? Where enthusiasts know about the brands and they know what products, they sort of want to seek out. But then you have to say, well, why is it going to work off-road? Why is it going to perform out there? Because that's what's important on the off-road and enthusiast side is something that's going to last and get it done.
You can say shit.
I know. I'm like, we're live. Can we?
It's fine. Amanda, how about you? How do racers stand out in such a crowded market?
Yeah, I think that when we're talking about like getting in front of a target audience, right? That's a really important piece is knowing your target audience. And like, that you have two completely different segments, right? And if somebody is wanting to partner with a brand, they need to know what those segments are and be able to relate their audience to them. So like, we race short course off-road racing. I know our off-road racing is probably a little bit different than the products that you guys are promoting, right? But if I didn't already know that my audience has a strong overlap with some of the things that you do, even though they're not the same things that I do, my audience is interested in that stuff, right? And that's the important piece is knowing my fans, not just myself. And I think that is where racers sometimes miss the beat is they stop and they look inward instead of looking outward and saying, well, my fans, they do these things, right? My fans, I know they're outdoor enthusiasts and they're out there and they have Jeeps and trucks and they're not driving Priuses around. I'm not going to go target, somebody who's promoting electric vehicles because it doesn't align with my brand, even if I'm a hippie that drives a Prius, right? I'm not, for the record.
Yeah,
But.
No, that's when you said that spray and pray. Is that what you said? That method?
Yes.
Yeah, it just doesn't work. And here's the thing. It's okay. You're not for everyone and you shouldn't be. When you really do target and lean in for who you're for, you actually grow faster and smarter and make more trusted relationships and partnerships.
Yes. On the way here, my husband and I were talking about our social media following. And we don't have a huge social media following, but we have a really engaged social media following. And it's kind of the same thing, right? With fans, you don't want to spray and pray either. You don't want to go out there and buy a whole bunch of fans that will never interact with your stuff and never buy your partner's products. And the same thing goes with the way that you're promoting your brand. You don't want to promote to attract everybody because you're not really going to make a meaningful connection with anybody.
How do you drive engagement, Real Truck?
Oh man, our social channels are, I mean, I really think the way right now that we're driving crazy good engagement is that user generated content. We are seeking out the stuff that's going to stand out. It's fun. And I mean, this lifestyle, it's the fun stuff. I say it all the time. Like, this is my day job. I get to do this. Like, we go off road, we get outdoors. And so showcasing that's how you get the engagement up, because people are like, I either want to be there or I want to know how to do that. So that's how we keep the engagement up, for sure.
I'd love to go back to personal stories about how both of you broke into your industries. And Lee, let's talk a little bit about, because you just gave that segue of like, you started in the industry and then you ended up being an off-roader too. Tell us a little bit about how that came to be.
Yeah, no, when I actually got into the industry about 20 years ago, I didn't think I was going to be a total truck girl.
Yeah.
I didn't. But you start, okay, well, I'll go on a trail ride. I'll do a few things. And I truly was just hooked. And there's nothing like it. So I go after that adrenaline rush. I definitely like the skinny pedal. So I love driving off road because you never know what you're going to encounter. And I mean, it's a lot like business too, right? There's an obstacle there. Like, how do I overcome it? I have to think fast. I have to make decisions. And so I think just that knowledge on road and off road has really helped, on the business side as well.
That is also a really good segue, which we can talk about in a bit. Amanda, how about you?
Yeah. So my husband and I, we grew our motorsports team from the ground up, and we were those people that were cold calling people at trade shows.
So you're saying to your former self, don't do that.
Yes, I am speaking from experience on these things.
That's
right.
Great.
So, 8 years ago, we were struggling to just show up at the track because we didn't have the funding.
Yeah.
And now we're showing a truck at the next entire booth. And,
cool.
It's been a huge learning curve for us to know what do partners actually want and how can we grow motorsports as a whole through not just what we're doing, but then taking that and teaching other people that too. So that's really what the birth of Racer on Demand was. My background professionally is in learning and development. So I love growing people and being able to take the skills that we've learned and the knowledge that we have and transfer that to other people. Everybody's like, oh my gosh, that's so altruistic of you. It's not, because if motorsports grow, we get to be a bigger fish in a bigger pond, right? Everybody grows at the same time if we can get more money in the industry as a whole.
Sounds a little bit to me like when you are driven by your own personal core values and that builds the brand. Like what we were talking about this, Lee and I, like it's not just the business values, but it's also your personal why and your values. Can you speak to that a little bit too, Lee, about how you lead teams and all of those things through your values driven, like bias for action we talk a lot about?
Yeah, no, I definitely think an old CEO of mine actually said, he's like, you always focus on the fifth P of marketing. There is no fifth P, but it's people. And when you start there, with whether it's your team or your customer, everything else falls into place because people matter. And so when you start there and you think, what is the best for my team? What is the best for the customer? You're going to win both with products and motivating the team. So that is definitely something I have kept with me all these years, is just when you focus there, everything else falls into place. It's people.
It totally is. And I love that you're pulling like the fifth P in my kind of world. I use the phrase meaningful connections over and over and over again. And it's funny because when I launched Racer on Demand, that was in my vision and mission statement, right? And I didn't really cue that up as being the most important part of that. And it's just funny, over the last year and a half or so, as I've grown this brand, that meaningful connections is the thing that I say the most. And I'm starting to notice the racers that I, promote and help I'm starting to notice them use it a lot too.
See, yeah. I love that. So we say at Haven, we like make connections so you can communicate and connect with your audiences. All of those things come back to meaningful connections. And you can't do that if you don't communicate. But what I also really love is when we start to talk about our values and our missions, we find like-minded people and we make those connections happen. Very cool. So tell me more about a time when a campaign did not go as planned. Do you have any stories of like lessons learned of perhaps someone could learn from, right? Don't do this, like the cold calling situation. Any lessons learned that you could share?
I know. I'm trying to think of a recent one. I do think like anytime you get off and don't listen to the customer, that's where, again, it's like, oh, I think this will work. But did we really listen to our customer? Well, no. And that's when you miss the mark. I think when you don't listen. So, if you're too quick to act, sometimes that bias to action, like if you don't have the information to make the right decisions and you don't listen to the customer, that's where I think it falls apart. And I can't think of a specific campaign, but we've
that's
definitely
good.
had some misses there with product. Maybe we made a change or improvement. And I was like, was it really the customer first here? Did we really listen?
Yeah.
And that's when I think the misses happen.
I was thinking that first too, because with new product development, and we've met through other brands, the one I'm thinking of, right? When they would develop a new product and launch it and go, wait a second, did it miss the mark? Because did we do the research? Did we find out if it's actually what they wanted? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
No, it's so true.
How about you, Amanda?
Yeah, I would say ours is probably on our race team side because, like I said, we've learned a lot through experience.
yes.
But for me, I would say it's knowing the value that you're bringing. And we've had a mismatch on that before. We had a brand that we were working with, just a first year kind of feeling things out, and they had very specific requirements for social media, X number of posts. It didn't really matter on like the quality or the engagement, right? It was a quota. And that is not the product that we sell. We're much more like engagement at the track, brand activation. We're big on brand alignment and really aligning values with companies and becoming the face of a company, right?
Yeah.
And so this quota for social media came up and it was like, okay, well, we have to put out a post for this brand again, and that was a 1-year partnership for a reason. And that's something that we decided wasn't going to be a fit for us because it didn't fit our product and it didn't fit our fans. It was inauthentic to our brand.
There you go. Going back to that. Yep.
Exactly. When we start having that mismatch of our perceived brand and what we actually want that to be and how that aligns with us, that was a big miss on our part.
That does kind of drive me crazy sometimes as we manage a lot of brand marketing and it's going, we want this engagement number, 12 posts this. It's like just some random strategy that doesn't have a lot of thought behind it and just a random metric.
And it's the same for everybody that they work with. And like to the point of differentiation, right? If you're treating all of your motorsports athletes the same way as a brand, you have a huge miss because you're not capitalizing on the things that make them different.
Lee, for Real Truck, you have multiple different influencers, I imagine, right? That represent. How do you track what's going on with all their different platforms and making sure that they stay in line with the brand?
Yeah, and obviously, I mean, we don't want to just check a box, but there's deliverables, right?
Okay,
but it's like you align on what that's going to look like, and it has to be different.
Yeah.
But it is, like we have a truck guy.
Okay.
We actually have influencers that align with our personas.
Oh,
so
cool.
it's work, life, sport, play.
Fun.
And when you align that, it's like it again, the content is authentic. It makes a lot of sense and they can have fun with it too. So it's like, yes, we have deliverables, but we're not just checking boxes.
Mm-hmm.
We're making sure that, again, those influencers, they're all about, hey, your life. Let's showcase what it is when mom, you're in the back of your SUV and it's an absolute mess. We've got Husky liners. That's the perfect thing. It's easy to clean.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's all about that. It's having the content that aligns with it.
That's cool that you do it by personas. That's fun. I mean, I feel like a lot of industries maybe speak more to the male audience. So can we talk about how the women audience is being, the brand?
Yeah, I think I'll start on the truck side. I mean, more women are getting out there and driving trucks. I mean, look at the numbers. It's crazy. And so if you're not speaking to that very important, you're totally missing out. And so we really do make sure, our influencers, have really strong female, again, I think, being a female in this industry, it's like, if I don't see it, I don't believe it. And so I want to make sure that we're doing that as well and showcasing because, I mean, such a huge percentage of us are getting out there and doing just as much, if not more. And so we want to highlight that on our channels.
Yeah. How about on the racing side?
Yeah. Okay. So obviously the three of us, we
Yeah,
get
right. Okay, shout out to SBN.
Yes, SEMA Business Women's Network.
Right.
we get the opportunity to be women in a male populated space, right?
I like that you said populated, not
Yes.
dominated, right?
I learned that from somebody here. But we have that opportunity to really make a difference, and that's honestly part of the reason why I love being the face for what I do. Like my husband is our motorsports athlete. I hop into a car once a year and I tend to just roll it in front of a lot of people. Like that's not my strong spot. But but I love being the face of the people builder, and it shows in the people that come to me. I have some female racers that work with me, and they tend to lean in a little bit harder than some of the males do. Not saying that all of our males don't, but I can think of one in particular. Her name's Kendra. She drives a little 1600 buggy, and she's really trying to build her program. And she pings me all the time, Amanda, what do you think about this? And how can I differentiate myself more here? And the way that she's positioning herself, I love it so much. She's positioning herself to help little girls learn that they can be race car drivers too.
Love that.
And I think it's so smart for women to work more with women and build women up, because the more of us are well prepared and well presented in the automotive space, the more we get to prove that we belong here too.
Okay, this is a great segue because I'll ask you, Lee, too, is like, what's your looking at the legacy of impacting the next generation? What does that look like and how are you involved in it? Because you're on some boards in the
Yeah, so I strongly believe in volunteering. I've done stuff on almost all of the volunteer councils for SEMA.
Yeah.
I've done SBN, I've done Young Executives Network. I did LTA before it was Tora. And I love that, there are always that component of going, the high school builds. And like we support it as a brand, but as a volunteer, like that's so exciting. These kids getting in and building and getting to feel our products and see what it's all about. I mean, it inspires them, but it inspires me because then I want to go out and do more of it. So yeah, no, we definitely want to make sure the next generation is excited about vehicles. Some kids are waiting later to get their license. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I couldn't wait. I couldn't wait. My daughter's 17 and she got a Jeep. And she was just so excited to get her license. So I'm like, okay, I did something right. She was ready. She was pumped for her Jeep and wanted all the accessories, all the things on it. So,
oh, yeah, we're raising kids that are going to want all the things on the, yes. But what would be some advice on how the younger generation could break in? If they don't know anything about our industries, how could they break in? What would be a good way to start? I want to start.
Well, I tell people just to get out there and do it. So obviously volunteer, but also raise a hand if someone says, hey, there's an opportunity at this high school. They're doing something in auto shop. Hey, I'd love to go.
Yeah.
The Pinewood drag races, like there's so many little things that you can do, but you always have to say yes. You have to start somewhere and you have to say yes to those opportunities. But I do think people getting into it, it can be intimidating. And so you have to, make sure that they feel comfortable. So just come in and join in on the fun.
Yeah. How about you, Amanda?
Yeah. Okay. So I love working with our youth racers. In our sport, we have a ton of youth classes, and it's amazing to see these little kids starting at age 5 are in a race car on the track. So oftentimes it's also training their parents, but
5 years old in a race car.
In an off-road race car going off of jumps.
Oh my
goodness. It is the coolest thing.
Okay.
But actually a significant number of the population that we work with are youth racers and their parents, which I was actually surprised by when we launched Racer on Demand. Those were the first ones biting. But another cool thing, we also partner with a company called Next Gen. They're a driver development program for youth. And I am the only adult participant to have gone in, and I rolled my car in that class too.
It sounds like there's a trend here.
There is a trend. I'm not a good race car driver. So, but I got to be there, but I also got to speak to the kids at lunch about branding and building their own intentional brand. And these kids have never thought about this before.
Yeah.
And my favorite thing was I got to ask them, what makes you weird?
I love the weird. Like, be
Yes,
weird. Don't
yes.
just fall in line. Yeah.
And at first they were like, I don't know, I'm not weird. I'm like, you guys are weird. I know you and
Everyone's
you're
got some
weird.
weird in them.
Yes.
Yeah,
I'm like, lean into the weird, embrace the weird. The weird is the thing that people will relate to you on, and that was so much fun.
I'm working on a whole speech about being weird because that's the only way new ideas happen and innovation and breaking out. So speaking of what is the next thing with, social, with content, where are we going? What are we seeing trend wise? I don't know.
I know. I think you see it on the show floor here with new products. I mean, there's a lot of innovation this year, and it does. The trends. I love to come out to SEMA because you kind of see what's next.
Yeah.
I actually wrote a little piece on that, and I was like, you just don't know year to year, and sometimes it's like, oh, that's going to be hot again, and it's gone the next year. So, but I think on our side, we're just seeing stuff that's more fully integrated into the vehicle. They want something that's very seamless. They want it to be easy to install. So I just think that's a theme right now with the consumer. It has to be easy and it has to look really, really good.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah, I think speaking to like the social media side of the world, I think that we're seeing a shift from a few big influencer names to more of that authentic, more like niche influencing. I think that we're seeing less authenticity in some of like the big brands, I would say, right? People are seeing through and going, well, that person's getting paid to say some of
it doesn't feel as authentic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But when they are relating to people that have, to your point, maybe not high production videos, right? Maybe these in the garage and it's messy, and my garage is messy too, and they're building a car that isn't this high dollar build. Instead, it's something
More
relatable.
relatable. Yep.
Right. And they're the people that don't have a million followers. They're the people that feel like your neighbor and you're hanging out with them.
So it feels attainable, really. Like you're saying. Yeah, that
Exactly.
makes sense.
Exactly.
So this podcast is all about getting shit done. We've talked about this before, Lee, but I want to hear it again. You're managing a brand, all this stuff going on, plus your personal life. How do you manage all of those things? What tools, what tactics, what advice could you give?
Yeah, this is always a hard one because I feel like I'm very like internally driven and motivated. And so it's like, how do you show someone how to do that? So I think you do have to have some of that internal drive, but I do believe in calendars. I put my family calendar together. I'm like, I do believe in, checklists. And I do think just use the tools you have at work. Even now it's like we have Copilot and we have different tools, and it's like, learn how to use those so that you have more time. So manage your time wisely, but use the tools that you have to manage because it makes it so much easier to keep up. And honestly, being a mom, being at work and missing things, it's like, no, keep that calendar and keep the checklists.
Yeah, for sure. How do you stay organized, man? You are on the road too.
My gosh. And on top of that, I just launched another new business, which is AI training. So isn't that fun? So time blocking is huge. I think the time management side, invest in yourself in taking classes to learn how to be organized, because that is the foundation for being able to get shit done. But also, talking about being driven, and I think getting shit done oftentimes starts with not being ready, but doing it anyway.
Yes.
I recently transitioned out of my corporate role, and that has been terrifying. I was not ready, but it doesn't matter if I was ready or not, because now I have more incentive to get shit done. Because I have to. It has to work, right? Put yourself in a position where it has to work and you will make it work.
Ooh, I want to hear a story about that because, Lee, I feel like you have a few of those moments where you've put yourself in a position where you weren't really sure. Like I'm thinking of the Rebel Rally or like something along those lines. Tell a story about.
Yeah. So even actually the show Overlanders. So we were asked to compete in a show for the Outdoor Channel. And it was like, my first instinct was to say no.
I've had that too.
And when I think, oh gosh, I want to say no, I almost always convince myself just say yes. Because the more you say yes, the more you put yourself out there, the more opportunities come.
Totally
and I met so many people through that, and we had an incredible, time. And still some of those memories, like we were sleeping in a tent on the side of the Colorado River. And I'm like, I would not have typically put myself in that position. But it was like I wanted to say no, and I just say yes.
I love that you said that too, because I had that same feeling in my stomach so many times, like at the start of something. And I'm like, oh, I want to puke, but I don't really want to just say no and run. And when I do say yes, it opens up so many other opportunities. And it's amazing what, this whole journey of building my business and where I've been has led to just from saying yes. And you said that earlier, just say yes.
Do it.
But it also sounds like it's still driven by a purpose that the things that you love to do, and it aligns with that. Do you have another story of jumping in?
Yeah. Okay. So I want to share something first, just talking about having that feeling of I should say no, I should
Yeah.
say no. I had breakfast with an old friend earlier this week, and she told me, she's like, if your voice is coming from here and it's telling you no, ignore it. And if it's coming from here, then maybe
I
you should
love
listen
that.
to that. And it's like,
Yeah,
listen to
that
your
is.
gut, don't listen to your head.
Yep. I
And
call that head trash sometimes. It could
Yeah.
be that, the negative words. Yeah.
That's perfect. That is absolutely perfect. I think for me, a big example is I am terrified of getting into my race car.
Really?
I am so
Is
scared.
it because you roll it all the time?
Yes, that's probably part of it. For me, it's a marketing tool. It does a
Yeah.
great job of capturing attention and building those relationships. I get to put kids in my race car. It's one
Yeah.
of the few cars in our sport that actually has working doors and 2 seats, So I use that as a marketing tool. But this year, especially, I hadn't driven it in a year. And I was taking it out my third race ever. And I went out, and the first race of the weekend was fine. I didn't roll it that time. I was very last place, but
I'm feeling a theme here.
yeah. No, the second race of the weekend was when it went over. But um, I got back after rolling my car the second race, and I had broken a lot of things, and I was walking a part back to somebody else's pit because the off-road world shows up, right? Parts were just delivered at my pit without me even being
That's
there.
nice, yeah.
And I didn't need this one, so I was walking it back, and I literally in my head I was like, I think I'm just gonna sell the car. Like it's not serving me well. I am not representing myself or my team or my brand well. I'm so dejected. I am done. And I'm walking down the pit lane, and this little girl is yelling, Amanda, Amanda, behind me. And she comes running up, and she has one of my hero cards that I signed for her. But on it, she wrote, you're my favorite person.
Ah.
And I gave her the biggest hug, and I was like, damn it, I have to fix my car now.
I love that story. Yeah.
That's great.
Lee, have you ever had a moment where you felt like you wanted to give up, but you kept going?
You know, I don't know. Yes, I'm sure there is, but I can't think of a good example right now. But I mean, out there in Rebel, there were some hard times. Like
Yeah.
you're sitting on the side of the road and you're going, wait, how many more miles do we
Yeah.
have to go? And there's something that just says, no,
Keep it going.
I can't. Like, I
Yeah.
don't want anybody to say, wait, you did what? And you didn't keep going.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was there for a minute, but
Yeah.
had to keep going.
I love that you said, I don't want anybody to think you did what and you didn't keep going, because a lot of times to get past that voice in your head, you have to go, I have this opportunity that so many people would love to have, whether it's running my own business or representing a brand or racing a race car or being in the Rebel Rally, right? And
Yep.
and if I go most of the way and then stop, I am throwing that opportunity away, and other people could have taken that.
No, it's so true.
Love that you said that too. All right. So any last words of advice for anyone listening about the brands, about breaking in, anything that you wanted to cover that we didn't hit?
I think that a lot of people are afraid to invest in themselves, both monetarily, but especially with their own time. And I think especially when building a brand, you need to take the time to explore options, right? Understand your market, understand your product, and understand yourself. And then invest in yourself by learning more about how to run a race team as a business, or learning about marketing and learning about all of the things that you can do to make yourself a better brand.
Being curious and learning. Yes.
Yeah, that is so funny. Actually, when I was thinking of what, it's always be curious, always ask why. And
Yeah.
I do think, get out and again, put yourself out there more than you feel comfortable with and before you're ready. Because I really liked what you said there too. It's like you have to, before you're ready, you also just have to jump in.
Ooh, this is actually another question. We were talking the other day about the word fearless, and I used to say, don't call me a fearless leader because I'm scared as shit. I'm always scared. But then Dana was saying, like, no, fearless is actually pushing through and having the courage anyway. What are your feelings about the word fearless?
Oh, I love it. I mean, because I do. It's like I am fearless, but yes, it's not the absence of fear. But
Okay.
it's pushing through.
I
that
never
fear.
thought of it that way.
Yeah.
I love that.
I think I'm more with you on this one, Jenny. I think courageous is maybe the better word, right? Fearless, like I am terrified probably 90% of the time about most of the things that I'm working on,
Yeah.
but I'm courageous enough to trust that I'll figure it out.
Yep. That is also a good trait of the GSD. All these conversations at this point, I've had hundreds of conversations with people, and it always comes back to that grit, the resilience, the drive, like you were talking about. You just naturally have this drive to want something. And so what I've learned is you got to have desire, you got to have willingness, and then you can GSD. So last, where can we find you?
Realtruck.com and come see us.
Thank you. And Amanda?
Yeah, you can find me at racerondemand.us. Also Racer on Demand on all of our socials. And then our race team is VDE, like Vanden Elzen Racing.
Perfect. Well, thank you both so much for joining us today.
Yeah, this has been great. Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much, Jenny and Lee.
All right, we're out.